Welcome to ABC English Story. Today we dive into the powerful words of Martin Luther King Jr. His speeches changed history, inspired millions, and continue to echo through time. What made his language so powerful? Join us as we explore the art of his rhetoric and discover the secrets behind his unforgettable speeches. Analyzing the language of Martin Luther King's speeches. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the most important speakers in history. His speeches are full of passion and deep meaning. One of his famous quotes, "I have a dream," still echoes in many people's hearts today. In this essay, we will look closely at how King used language in his speeches. We will focus on three main techniques: repetition, appealing to shared values, and the use of metaphors. In addition, we will explain how these techniques made his speeches powerful and inspiring during the civil rights movement and continue to influence people today. 1. Introducing the master of rhetoric. To begin with, let us think about the power of words. Martin Luther King Jr. had the amazing ability to connect with his audience by choosing the right words. When he said, "I have a dream," he did not just speak words, he shared a vision of hope and a better future. This famous excerpt shows us how powerful language can be when it is used with purpose. King was a leader during the civil rights movement, a time when many people in America fought for freedom, equality, and justice. His speeches helped to bring people together and made them believe in the possibility of change. King's way of speaking was unique. His language was clear and filled with emotion, and his ideas were easy to understand. He used simple words to express very deep ideas, making his message accessible to everyone. In this essay, we will explore three key techniques in King's speeches. We will see how repetition helps to drive home the message, how shared values bring people together, and how metaphors make difficult ideas easier to understand. By studying these techniques, we can learn not only about King's style, but also about the power of language itself. 2. The art of repetition, driving home the message. Repetition is a simple yet effective tool in speech-making. When we repeat a word or phrase, it becomes more memorable. Martin Luther King Jr. used repetition to emphasize his main ideas and to create a rhythmic flow in his speeches. Explaining repetition for emphasis. Repetition means saying something more than once. This technique makes the message stronger. For example, when King said, "I have a dream," several times, it helped the audience remember his vision. Repeating a phrase is like a musical beat. It makes the speech sound like a song that you cannot forget. In King's speeches, repetition was used to focus the listener's attention on key ideas. The repeated words help make the speech more interesting and easier to remember. Examples of repeated phrases. In many of his speeches, King repeated important phrases. The most famous example is, "I have a dream." This simple phrase was repeated to show his strong belief in a better future. Another example is the use of words like freedom and justice. By repeating these words, King made sure that his listeners could feel the importance of these ideas. The repetition creates a clear and strong message that stays with the audience long after the speech is over. The emotional impact of repetition. Repetition does not only make words stick in the mind, it also creates emotion. When we hear something repeated, we begin to feel it deeply. In King's case, every time he repeated his favorite phrases, it stirred up feelings of hope, determination, and unity among his listeners. The rhythmic nature of repetition can make the audience feel like they are part of a collective movement. The emotional impact of these repeated words is one of the reasons why King's speeches still inspire people today. Reflecting on repetition. Imagine listening to your favorite song. Chances are you remember the chorus because it is repeated. In the same way, repetition in speeches makes the main ideas stand out. Think of a time when you heard a phrase over and over again in a speech or a song. How did that make you feel? Martin Luther King Jr. used repetition to create a memorable and emotional experience for his audience. This technique helped him drive his message home and made his speeches powerful tools for change. 3. Appealing to shared values, connecting with the audience. Another important technique in King's speeches is his ability to appeal to shared values. Shared values are the common beliefs and ideals that many people hold. In America, ideas like freedom, justice, and equality are very important. King used these shared values to connect with a diverse audience, making sure that everyone could relate to his message. King's connection with American values. When King spoke about freedom, justice, and equality, he was talking about ideas that many Americans believe in. These values are not only words, they are a way of life. Many people in the United States grew up hearing about these ideas in school, at home, and in their communities. By using these shared values in his speeches, King was able to create a bond with his listeners. He reminded them of what was important in their lives and why they should stand up for what is right. Examples from King's speeches. In several of his famous speeches, King mentioned ideas that most Americans support. For example, when he talked about freedom, he was reminding people of the basic human right to live without oppression. Similarly, when he spoke of justice, he was calling for fairness in society. By connecting his ideas with values that people already believed in, King made his speeches more relatable and powerful. This approach helped him reach a wide audience, from different races and backgrounds, all united by common ideals. Building bridges with a diverse audience. America is a country with many different cultures and backgrounds. One of King's great strengths was his ability to speak to all of these groups. By using shared values, he built bridges between people who might not have agreed on everything. His speeches made it clear that despite our differences, we all care about freedom, justice, and equality. This message of unity was very important during the civil rights movement. King showed that when we focus on our shared beliefs, we can overcome differences and work together for a better future. The effect on listeners. When people hear ideas that they already believe in, they feel understood and respected. King's speeches made his audience feel that they were not alone. They felt that someone else was also fighting for the same rights and freedoms. This sense of connection and common purpose can be very powerful. It not only motivates people to join a movement, but also gives them hope. The emotional impact of hearing familiar values repeated in a passionate speech can change the way people think and act. Encouraging reflection on shared values. Take a moment to think about the values that are most important to you. How do these values help shape your identity? Martin Luther King Jr. tapped into these shared ideas, and by doing so, he was able to inspire many people to work together for change. His approach reminds us that when we stand together and support common beliefs, we can create a strong, united community. 4. Mastering the power of metaphors. Metaphors are another key element in King's speeches. A metaphor is a way of describing something by saying it is something else. This technique helps to explain complex ideas in a simple and memorable way. Defining metaphors in simple terms. A metaphor is like a picture in your mind. It compares two things that are not alike but share some common qualities. For example, if you say life is a journey, you are using a metaphor. You do not mean that life is literally a road trip, but that it has many ups and downs, twists and turns. King used metaphors to make his ideas easier to understand. He wanted his audience to see the big ideas in a simple way. By comparing abstract ideas to everyday objects or experiences, he made his message more vivid and relatable. How metaphors simplify complex ideas. Sometimes ideas like freedom or equality can be hard to understand because they are very big and complex. King used metaphors to simplify these ideas. For example, he might compare the struggle for civil rights to climbing a steep mountain. In this metaphor, the mountain represents the difficult path toward freedom, and the climb shows the hard work needed to reach the top. This kind of comparison helps people visualize what he means. It turns an abstract concept into something concrete and real that you can picture in your mind. Relatable and memorable language. Metaphors make speeches not only more interesting, but also more memorable. When King used a metaphor, his audience could see the idea clearly in their minds. A well-chosen metaphor creates an image that stays with you long after the speech is over. For instance, when a complex issue is explained through a simple image, it becomes easier to recall and understand later. This is one reason why King's speeches continue to be studied and admired. They are filled with vivid images and comparisons that make his words unforgettable. Examples of powerful metaphors from King's speeches. Let us look at some examples of metaphors in King's speeches. In one famous speech, King talked about the dark and desolate valley that the nation was passing through. This image helped people understand the difficult times they were living in, but it also hinted at the possibility of finding a way out into the light. Another example is when King compared the struggle for civil rights to a long, winding road. This metaphor showed that progress might be slow and filled with obstacles, but it was a journey worth taking. Reflection on the use of metaphors. Metaphors allow us to see things in a new light. Think about a time when someone used a picture or a comparison to explain something to you. It might have made the idea much clearer than if it had been explained with plain facts. Martin Luther King Jr. used metaphors to make his messages more understandable and moving. His simple yet powerful images helped create a connection with his audience. This connection is a key reason why his words have endured through time. 5. A legacy of words, the enduring power of King's rhetoric. Martin Luther King Jr. did not only speak to change minds during his lifetime, his words continue to inspire people around the world today. His speeches are studied in schools, celebrated in history, and used as examples of how powerful language can be. Summarizing King's rhetorical strategies. Throughout his speeches, King used three main techniques: repetition, shared values, and metaphors. Repetition made his key ideas unforgettable and created a strong emotional rhythm. His appeal to shared values connected him with an audience that believed in freedom, justice, and equality. Metaphors simplified complex ideas and painted clear pictures in the minds of listeners. Together, these strategies made his messages both powerful and persuasive. King's influence on the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was a time of struggle and hope. King's speeches provided a vision of a better future, a future where people of all backgrounds could live together in peace and fairness. His words encouraged people to stand up against injustice and to believe that change was possible. King's language helped to unite many different groups under one common cause. His message of equality and justice resonated deeply with everyone who heard it, making him an icon of the movement. Continuing inspiration today. Even decades after his speeches were delivered, King's words continue to inspire people. Students, leaders, and everyday citizens look up to his way of speaking. His messages remind us that language is a tool that can bring about change. By using clear and simple language, King was able to reach a wide audience and make a lasting impact. His legacy lives on not only in history books, but also in the hearts of those who still dream of a better world. The lasting power of words. King's speeches teach us an important lesson. Words matter. They have the power to challenge ideas, to inspire action, and to unite people. Today, many people continue to study his speeches to learn about the art of communication. In classrooms, speeches like "I have a dream" are used as examples of how careful use of language can lead to real change. King's success shows that even in difficult times, strong words can light the way for future generations. Encouraging further exploration. If you find this analysis interesting, I encourage you to read and listen to more of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches. Each speech offers a chance to see these techniques in action. Try to notice the repetition, the use of shared values, and the vivid metaphors. Reflect on how these elements work together to form a message that is both inspiring and memorable. Learning from King's approach can help us improve our own communication skills. It reminds us that our words have the power to make a difference in the world. 6. Conclusion. In conclusion, the language of Martin Luther King Jr. is as powerful today as it was during the civil rights movement. Through his use of repetition, he made his key ideas unforgettable. By appealing to shared values, he connected with a diverse audience, uniting people under common ideals like freedom, justice, and equality. And through the skillful use of metaphors, he turned complex ideas into clear, memorable images that touched the hearts of his listeners. King's speeches were not just about presenting ideas, they were about inspiring hope and action. His mastery of language helped to move a nation toward progress and justice. Even now, his words serve as a reminder of the power that lies in clear, passionate communication. They encourage us to speak with conviction and to stand up for what is right. As we study King's speeches, we are reminded that good communication is an art form that has been valued for generations. In a world where change is constant, the timeless lessons in his speeches teach us that using clear and simple language can bring people together and spark movements for positive change. I encourage everyone to take a moment and think about the words you use every day. Consider how repetition can make your ideas more memorable, how shared values can unite people, and how metaphors can turn difficult concepts into something easy to understand. By embracing these techniques, you can learn to express yourself more clearly and even inspire those around you. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The time is always right to do what is right." His legacy is not only in the history books, but also in the continued efforts of people who strive for a better, more just society. His speeches remain a shining example of how effective language can be when it is used with passion, empathy, and a deep understanding of what it means to be human. In our everyday lives, let us remember that our words can change the world. By studying the language of great speakers like Martin Luther King Jr., we learn that while times may change, the power of well-chosen words remains constant. It is through our language that we share our hopes, build our communities, and inspire future generations to continue the fight for justice and equality. As we close this essay, let us take inspiration from King's timeless message. Let us strive to use our voices for good, to speak with clarity and compassion, and to always remember that change begins with a single word. The lessons from Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches remind us that while challenges may be great, the strength of our words and the unity of our shared values can overcome even the darkest of times. This essay shows how Martin Luther King Jr.'s techniques, repetition, shared values, and metaphors, combine to create a powerful legacy of words. It encourages us to not only appreciate his genius, but also to learn from his example, using language as a tool for positive change. Let us continue to honor the past by carrying forward these timeless lessons and using them to build a brighter, more inclusive future. By studying these methods and reflecting on their impact, we can better understand the art of effective communication. It is clear that Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches were more than just words. They were calls to action, beacons of hope, and blueprints for a more just society. His legacy reminds us that the power of language is everlasting, and that when we choose our words with care, we too can help shape a better tomorrow. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words still inspire the world today. His message of freedom, justice, and hope lives on. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ABC English Story for more inspiring content. Leave a comment below. What is your favorite quote from MLK? See you in the next video.